For 4 years of college, she relied on her powerful father. She coerced and bribed me into being her boyfriend. I gave her my whole heart. She treated me like a servant. The day she was brought down, she tossed out, "You have no power and no money. We're through." Then she walked away without looking back. 5 years later, I sat on the 68th floor of the Fang Group building. Beyond the floor, 2 ceiling windows. The whole city glittered. My assistant handed me a photograph. In the pouring rain, a woman crouched outside a market. She sheltered a little girl in her arms. The child lifted her face. Her eyes and brows were identical to mine. I never went to Chengnan. It was chaotic and filthy. Its roads were too narrow for 2 cars to pass. But that day, Assistant Lin insisted on taking a detour. She said a rear-end collision on the overpass had caused a 4-kilometer backup. I said nothing, leaning back and closing my eyes. My mind was filled with the terms of that afternoon's acquisition deal. As we turned onto an old street in Chengnan, the downpour came crashing down. Even on full speed, the wipers could not clear the windshield. Everything was a blur. Assistant Lin slowed to 20 kilometers an hour. As the car passed the entrance to Chengnan Market, I opened my eyes. Not because of some sixth sense. A child's shrill cry pierced the rain and the car windows. I turned my head. In the downpour, a woman in a gray coat crouched on the ground. She clutched a little girl tightly in her arms. Beside them, a burly vendor stood with his hands on his hips, cursing. Overturned vegetable crates lay nearby. Rotten leaves scattered everywhere. "Pay up. Do you hear me? You ruined my vegetables. Woman, 300 yuan. 300 yuan, not 1 cent less." The woman lowered her head. Her back curled like a shell. She shielded the child with her entire body. Rain streamed down her hair. Her soaked gray coat clung to her back, exposing her sharp shoulder blades. She was painfully thin, as though malnourished. One trembling hand reached into her pocket for money. My car had stopped at a red light, less than 10 meters from them. She pulled out several crumpled bills, 1 yuan, 5 yuan, and 10 yuan notes. Rain had soaked them, making them stick to her fingers. She could not count them. "That is all. You think you can fob me off like a beggar? Leave your daughter as payment." The vendor snatched the bills from her. Then he reached for the little girl. The woman suddenly looked up. In that instant, my blood froze. Shen Buyu. It was Shen Buyu. 5 years. After 5 years, I had nearly forgotten what she looked like. No, I had not forgotten. I had simply forced myself not to think of her. Yet now, her face crashed into my sight without warning. She was thinner. Her cheekbones jutted out, and her lips were pale. Dark circles stained the skin beneath her eyes. She was nothing like the arrogant woman from 5 years ago. The woman who stood outside the college lecture hall grabbed my tie before the whole class and said, "From today on, you are Shen Buyu's boyfriend." I could never mistake those eyes. They were Shen Buyu's eyes, the deep eyes of the woman who had carved a scar into my heart. "Mr. Fang, the light is green." I did not move, because I saw another face. The little girl Shen Buyu held protectively. Her wet hair clung to her forehead, and her little face was red from the cold. She stopped crying, lifted her head, and looked outside. Toward my car. Thick black brows, deep-set eyes, a straight nose, a pointed chin. My hand clenched around the armrest. Those features were not Shen Buyu's. They were mine. Exactly like mine. Horns blared one after another behind us. "Mr. Fang, what is it?" Assistant Lin called out again. "Stop the car. Now. Here. Mr. Fang, pull over." Assistant Lin pulled the car to the curb. I opened the door, and the downpour drenched me. My suit was soaked through at once. I stood in the rain, watching the woman crouch 30 feet away. She was still pleading humbly with the vendor. "Sir, this is really all I have. Can I pay you the rest tomorrow? Please, do not scare my child." I had heard that voice for 4 years. For 4 years, she used it to order me to fetch water for her, save her seats, write her papers, and carry her bags while she shopped. She never said please, only go. "Fang Xiu, go buy me a milk tea." "Fang Xiu, my father's car is here. Take a cab home." "Fang Xiu, do not embarrass me in front of my friends." Now, that voice was saying, please. I stood in the rain and listened for a moment. Then I turned and went back to the car. The moment I shut the door, Assistant Lin looked at me through the rearview mirror. My expression must have been terrible. She did not dare say a word. "Look someone up." I wiped rain from my face. My voice was colder than the storm outside. "Shen Buyu, daughter of A City's former deputy mayor. Find out where she lives and what job she has. Who is around. Focus on the child." "What child?" "The one in her arms." I closed my eyes. The sound of rain flooded the cabin, loud enough to make me restless, but louder than the rain were the words Shen Buyu had said 5 years ago, echoing in my head. "Fang Xiu, you have neither power nor money. We're through." It had rained that day too, just as heavily. She held an umbrella and simply looked at me. I could not understand the look in her eyes. She turned and got into a black sedan. The windows slowly rose, leaving me outside in the rain. 5 years had passed. Today, I sat in the car while she crouched in the rain. That was how life came full circle. The car started and drove away from Chengnan Market. In the rearview mirror, Shen Bai's figure holding the child grew smaller and blurrier until they vanished into the gray curtain of rain. But that little girl's face was branded onto my retinas. I could not shake it. Assistant Lin was as efficient as ever. By noon the next day, an investigation report sat on my desk. I slowly opened to the first page. Shen Baiyu. Female, 28. Current name, Lin Yi. Registered address changed. Currently lives in room 304, building 12, Changnan Shantytown. Monthly rent, 800 yuan. Occupation, cashier at Changnan Guoma Supermarket. Monthly salary, 3,200 yuan. My finger stopped on her monthly salary. 5 years ago, the price of one of her dresses could cover an entire semester of my tuition. I kept reading. Family member, daughter. Registered name, Shen Mianmian. For years and 3 months old. The father's section on her birth certificate was blank. For years and 3 months old. I did the math. She broke up with me in the summer, 5 years ago. For years and 3 months meant the child had been conceived about 2 months before our breakup. We had still been together then. It felt as if someone had seized my heart and twisted it again and again. I turned to the photographs. The first was Shen Bai's ID photograph. She wore no makeup. Her hair tied in a careless ponytail. Her eyes looked tired, but calm enough. The second was a secretly taken candid photo. She wore the supermarket's red uniform. Standing behind a register, she lowered her head to scan items. An older woman in line urged her to hurry. She kept nodding with an apologetic smile. Shen Baiyu, wearing a forced smile. I stared at that photograph for a long time. Back in college, she would slam the table if the cafeteria worker overcharged her by half a yuan. Now she had learned to smile and apologize. The third photograph was of her child. It was an enlarged crop from a preschool group photo. The resolution was poor, but her features were clear. She stood at the edge of the second row. Her school uniform was clearly one size too big. Her hair was tied into two crooked little pigtails. She was not smiling, but her eyes were bright. She stared straight into the camera, her brow faintly furrowed. That expression. I opened a drawer and pulled out an old photograph. It was my only photograph from when I was 7. My mother had taken it when she was alive. I was not smiling either, and my brow was furrowed just like that. Staring blankly into the camera, put the two faces side by side, and there was no need for a DNA test. Anyone could tell we were father and daughter, but I still picked up the phone. Make an appointment at the Changbai Genetic Testing Center, the fastest available. Assistant Lin hesitated. Mr. Fang, collecting a sample means we need access to the child. Then get access. Under what pretext? I was silent for a few seconds. Who is her landlord now? A local man named Liu. He owns 3 old buildings. Buy his buildings. Buy the buildings? Buy all 3 buildings. Assistant Lin opened her mouth, then asked no more. She had worked for me for 5 years. She knew that once I spoke in that tone, there was no room for discussion. After the door closed, I was alone in the office. I leaned back in my chair, clutching the child's photograph, and stared at the ceiling. It was as if someone had pried open a door in my mind. Locked for 5 years. Memories came pouring out in a flood. At the start of freshman military training, the September sun was fierce enough to burn your skin raw. Shen Baiyu stood on the stage. She was the freshman representative giving a speech. She wore a dress, beautiful with a bright, clear voice. There were more than 2,000 people below the stage, yet her gaze happened to sweep over me. I stood in the last row, and nearly black, wearing patched camouflage fatigues. I had sewn the patches on myself. The stitches were too crude to look at. I thought she would never notice me. But on the 3rd day of training, she found me. What's your name? Fang Xiu. Are you the top scorer who got in? I nodded, feeling awkward. Fine. Starting today, you're my boyfriend. I thought she was joking, but she was not. Only later did I learn that her reason for choosing me was simple. Any boyfriend of mine, Shen Baiyu, had to be the top student at minimum. You're decent looking too. Just a little poor, but I have plenty of money. That was what she said, chin lifted as she took my hand. With utter pride. It was not attraction. It was vanity. A top scorer boyfriend was a flattering label in her social circle, and I was just a poor student. The most valuable thing I had was an innocent heart that melted at the slightest touch. When she said we should date, I refused. She used 3 tactics. First, she had a word with my advisor. My scholarship was nearly cancelled. Second, she had her father's secretary call me. He gave me a warning over the phone, saying Miss Shen choosing me was a blessing. Third, she stood below the men's dormitory, shouting for the whole building to hear. Fang Xiu, get down here. If you do not say yes, I'll come every day. In the end, I went downstairs. Not because I was moved. It was because my roommates were as poor as I was, and her harassment would cost them their part-time jobs. So I agreed. From that day on, I was Shen Baiyu's boyfriend. She took me to gatherings with her friends. I sat silently in the corner, and she would introduce me. This is the genius I keep. He's the top scorer. First in the class, too. So obedient. Keep. That was the word she used. I saved her seats in the study hall, waited in line at the library to borrow books for her, wrote her term papers, picked up her deliveries, bought her breakfast, and fixed her computer. She never said thank you. She said it was what I was supposed to do. But I was only human. When period cramps left her rolling on her dorm bed in pain, her roommates had all gone to class, and no one was there for her. I skipped class and raced to the pharmacy for brown sugar and heat patches. Then I waited outside her dorm for an hour. When she opened the door, her eyes were red-rimmed. As she took the things, her fingers brushed the back of my hand. Her fingers flinched back. That night, she sent me a message. Fang Xiu, you're so annoying. But it was followed by an emoji, a little cat hugging a fish. After that day, her attitude toward me changed. Just a little. Sometimes, she even smiled while scolding me. That tiny spark of feeling ruined me. I fell for her completely. Over my remaining 3 years of college, I emptied my heart and placed it in her hands. She took it. I never knew whether she truly meant it, but I believed her. Then, 2 months before graduation, something happened to Shen Buyu's father. Rumor had it he had taken massive bribes. He was taken away for investigation overnight. The Shen family villa and cars were seized. All their bank accounts were frozen. That same day, Shen Buyu's mother, Zhizhu, fled with their valuables. Shen Buyu went from a princess to the disgraced daughter of an official. When I rushed to her apartment, she was packing. Where are you going? She did not look up. She only packed faster. It's none of your business. Buyu, no matter what happens, I will. At last, she looked up. Her dry eyes were red. Not a single tear fell. Only her voice was slightly hoarse. Fang Xiu, what do you have? Do you have money? Do you have connections? You do not even have a proper job. Should I follow you and starve? I can provide. You cannot provide anything. You cannot do anything. I froze. I did not know what to say, or what I could do. She picked up her suitcase and walked to the door. With her back to me, she spoke her final words. You have neither power nor money. We're through. The door closed. I stood in that apartment all night. After that, everything seemed to fast forward. 3 days after our breakup, a black Rolls-Royce stopped below my apartment. An old man in a mouse suit stepped out. He looked at me, tears streaming down his face. My child, I've searched for you for 22 years. He was my biological grandfather, the founder of Fang Group. My father was his eldest son. 22 years ago, he ran away from home with my mother and later died in a car accident. My mother raised me alone until I was 12. Then she died of illness too. Afterward, I was sent to an orphanage. Through my own hard work, I got into a prestigious university. My grandfather had searched for me for 22 years, until a DNA database match finally succeeded. Poor boy Fang Xiu became Fang Group's sole heir overnight. Isn't that ironic? Shen Buyu dumped me because I was poor, just 3 days before I became the richest man alive. Fate is a crueler screenwriter than anyone. After taking over Fang Group, I never looked for her. Not because I did not want to, because I did not dare. I fear that if I found her, I would discover I still could not let her go. Then all the strength I have forced myself to show these past 5 years would have been for nothing. But now, that child's face had shattered it all. For years and 3 months old, she was my child. She disappeared with my child for 5 years. My daughter had grown up in a shantytown, wearing a school uniform one size too big, unable to force even a smile. While I signed contracts worth tens of billions on the 68th floor, I clenched the photograph's edge until my knuckles turned white. Fine, Shen Buyu, you can hide once, but you cannot hide forever. This time, I will find you. On the 3rd day, landlord Liu signed the transfer agreement before my lawyer. 3 old buildings, bought as a package for 12 million yuan. Their market value was no more than 4 million. His hands shook when he received the check. Once the ownership transfer was complete, I had Assistant Lin notify every tenant in the name of property management. The buildings are deteriorating. Move out by the deadline. Each household will receive 2 months' rent as compensation. Every tenant accepted the compensation and happily packed their things. Only room 304 showed no sign of moving. She said she could not move. She had just paid 3 months' rent. There was nowhere nearby with a room for 800 yuan a month. Mianmian's preschool was nearby too. It was only a 10-minute walk. What did she say? Her exact words. Assistant Lin played a recording on her phone. Shen Buyu's voice came through the speaker. It was raspy, with a slight nasal tone, as though she had not fully recovered from a cold. I'm sorry. I really cannot move. Could you make an exception? I'm raising a child alone. I truly have nowhere else to go. I can pay an extra month's rent. I'm sorry. An exception. When had Shen Buyu ever used words like that? Arrange for me to go tomorrow. You're going yourself. The following evening, I took an inconspicuous black van and parked outside Building 12. The building was old. Most of the paint had peeled off the exterior walls, exposing dull gray concrete. The hallway had no lights, and junk covered the floor. The air reeked of dampness and cooking oil. I climbed to the 3rd floor, 1 step at a time. The stairs were narrow. The walls were so mottled The original color was unrecognizable. It was hard to imagine. Shen Beiyu had lived in a place like this for 5 years. 3rd floor. Room 3-0-4. The metal door handle had worn through its plating, revealing rust beneath. An old pair of adult slippers sat outside the door, beside pink plastic sandals with scuffed toes. I knocked. Who is it? The voice inside was tense and wary. Property management. The door opened a crack. The safety chain still latched. Shen Beiyu showed half her face through the gap. She wore a faded t-shirt. Her hair was loosely tied behind her head. Flowers still clung to her hands. Hello. I'm here to discuss your relocation. The moment she recognized me, time seemed to stop. Within seconds, her face went from red to white, then from white to ashen. Her hand clutched the doorframe. Her knuckles stood out sharply. You. Long time no see. Miss Shen. How did you find me? Guess. She instinctively stepped back and tried to close the door. Then a sweet child's voice came through the gap. Mommy. Who is it? A little face peeked out from beside her leg. Mianmian looked up at me. Her eyes bright. She wore patched floral pajamas. Her hair had just been washed. Droplets ran from its ends into her collar. That little face was right before me. Thick black brows, deep-set eyes, a straight nose, and a slightly pointed chin. Just like in the preschool group photo. And just like me in that old photo at 7. Even without the DNA report, I could no longer lie to myself. Mister, you're so tall. My throat tightened instantly. I crouched down to meet her eyes. She was not shy with strangers. Instead, she leaned closer. Mister, you look like someone on television. Like who? She tilted her head and thought. Like the man in Mommy's phone photo. Shen Beiyu's face went completely pale. She quickly pulled Mianmian behind her. Leave. Me. Leave. I slowly rose to my feet. Shen Beiyu, this building belongs to me. You live in my building. Who do you think should leave? Her shoulders went rigid. What do you want? She stood in front of Mianmian. Though she had already been backed into a corner, she still refused to give an inch. Her eyes were full of wariness, as if I would snatch Mianmian from her at any moment. My gaze passed over her and into the apartment. Barely over 10 square meters. 1 bed, 1 folding table, 1 wardrobe. 2 bowls of noodles sat on the table. The child's bowl held a fried egg. The adults had nothing. Several boxes of instant noodles were piled in the corner. A pot of plastic flowers sat on the windowsill. Probably a craft Mianmian had brought home from preschool. This was where the deputy mayor's daughter now lived. It was also where my daughter had grown up. For 5 years, I signed contracts worth tens of billions on Fang Group's 68th floor. While my daughter lived here, wearing patched pajamas, eating the only bowl of noodles with an egg. I looked at Shen Beiyu again. That child is mine. It was not a question. It was a statement. Something shattered in Shen Beiyu's eyes. She staggered back to steps, hitting the wall. No. Want to see the DNA report? How could you possibly have her DNA? The preschool kept her blood sample from a medical exam. The result is 99.99%. I clenched my hand inside my pocket. Shen Beiyu, how much longer will you keep lying to me? She closed her eyes, trembling uncontrollably. Mianmian tugged at her hem. Mommy. What's wrong? Don't cry, Mommy. Shen Beiyu was not crying. But before that mottled wall, her lashes, lips, and hands at her sides were all trembling. For a long time, she could not speak. I moved close to her, close enough to smell the cheap laundry detergent on her, and the flowers she had not washed from her hands. I stopped before her. You hid my daughter from me for 5 years. Do you think I'm good enough now? My voice frightened Mianmian. She turned and hugged Shen Beiyu's leg. Shen Beiyu stroked her hair, her hand still shaking, but her voice gradually steadied. Fang Xiu, if you want custody, I'll give it to you. I was stunned, but you have to let me see her once a month. She has never known her father. She has suffered so much with me. You have money and power now. You can give her a better life. I will not stop you. She drew a breath. She looked at me, her eyes deeply red. But she did not retreat again. She was truly prepared to give Mianmian to me. But she is my own flesh and blood. Please. Let me see her once a month. This was the second time I had heard Shen Beiyu beg. The first was at the market, begging a strange vendor not to frighten her child. This time, she was begging me. 5 years ago, she stood at my apartment door, looking down on me as she said I had neither power nor money. 5 years later, she stood against the wall of another apartment, begging me to let her see her daughter. Both were rented apartments. Both involved the same two people. Back then, I was the one abandoned. Now, she was ready for me to cast her out. My chest felt tight and heavy. No. Her face turned ashen at once. But I have one condition. She looked up. Move into the Fang residence and care for Fang Mianmian as her nanny. I will have custody of the child. You will handle her daily care. When I decide you are worthy, then we can discuss it again. A nanny? What? Miss Shen. Is being a nanny beneath you? Shen Beiyu pressed her lips together and said nothing. That title struck her like a slap across the face. But she did not lift her chin and argue as she had 5 years ago. Nor did she ask about pay. As long as she could remain by Mianmian's side, she seemed willing to agree to anything. Mianmian looked up from beside her leg, first at her, then at me. Mommy, Is this Mr. the best person in the world you told me about? The room suddenly fell silent. Mianmian, do not talk nonsense. But every time mommy looks at that Mr's photo on her phone, she cries. Mianmian. The child flinched at her sharp tone. Tears immediately rolled down her cheeks. Shen Baiyu quickly crouched down and held her. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Mommy wasn't angry at you. I stood there, my throat constricting. She had my photo on her phone. She cried when she looked at it. She even told our daughter I was the best person in the world. Those words collided with the breakup words I had carried for 5 years. Inside my mind, I remember the look in her eyes before she got into that black sedan. I did not understand it then. I still did not understand it now. Had she really left me then just because I was poor? I forced myself to stop. She hid my daughter from me for 5 years. Mianmian wore patched pajamas. She lived in a cramped room of barely 150 square feet. She ate noodles from an adult's bowl, without even a fried egg. A few words could never settle that score. Move in within 3 days. I placed my business card on the folding table. The address is on it. Contact Assistant Lin when you arrive. He'll handle the arrangements. With that, I turned and went downstairs. The stairwell was pitch black, and I stumbled with every step. I gripped the rusted railing as I went down. Mianmian's crying drifted faintly from behind me, along with Shen Baiyu's muffled sobs. I paused, then quickened my pace. She moved in on the 3rd day. More precisely, at the very last minute, 11:50 that night. When the gatekeeper called the study, I was reviewing Mianmian's preschool transfer papers. Mr. Fang, there's a woman at the gate. She's with a child and says you sent for them. Let them in. I set down the papers and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window on the 2nd floor. The lawn at the Fang estate was perfectly manicured. Warm light spilled over the cobblestone path. Crystal chandeliers lit the way from the living room to the entrance hall. It was a completely different world from the old building they had lived in for 5 years. Shen Baiyu stood at the gate, holding Mianmian's hand. She had brought only one woven bag. One hand held the bag, the other held Mianmian's. Mianmian clutched that faded cloth bear in her arms. Under the estate's lights, mother and daughter looked like bedraggled stray cats who had wandered in by mistake. Mianmian still wore those old plastic sandals. That woven bag contained all their belongings. I had an entire dressing room prepared for them. Yet what they had actually brought didn't even fill one bag. Uncle Zhang led them into the living room. By the time I came downstairs, they stood in the center of the room. Mianmian kept yawning sleepily, yet her eyes still roamed around curiously. The crystal chandelier stretched her tiny shadow long across the floor. This house is so big. It's 100 times bigger than ours. Shen Baiyu said nothing, gripping Mianmian's hand tightly. Uncle Zhang, take them to the west wing. Is the child's room ready? Everything is as you instructed. Pink bedding, a desk, and new clothes in the closet. I looked at Shen Baiyu, who had kept her head lowered. Mianmian has breakfast at 7 tomorrow morning. At 8, the driver takes her to her new preschool. Your schedule follows hers. All right. I took a card from my suit pocket. This is an expense card, with 20,000 yuan each month. It may only be used for Mianmian. Every expense is recorded. I'll be checking. I said that deliberately for Shen Baiyu's benefit. I'd seen how she spent money in college, and seen her in the rain, counting out a few dozen yuan in loose change. Still, I refused to soften my tone. She took the card, her fingertips icy. I don't need it. It's not for you. It's for my daughter. Her hand froze instantly. Mianmian watched me for a while. Then she suddenly pulled free of her mother's hand, and ran up to me holding out the cloth bear. Mr. Pet Bear. He's so soft. Once you touch him, you won't be so mean. I crouched down and took the bear. It really was soft, but the hand Mianmian used to offer it was softer, tiny, chubby, and warm. What's his name? Bear is called Daddy. The living room went silent at once. Uncle Zhang coughed. Assistant Lin looked up at the ceiling. Shen Baiyu closed her eyes. Because Mommy said that even though Daddy isn't here, he'll always protect me. Bear always protects me too. So I call him Daddy. I lowered my head. My throat scraped raw like sandpaper. A good name. Take Daddy and go to bed. Mianmian took the bear. Then she suddenly stood on tiptoe and kissed my cheek. Good night, mister. Then she skipped toward Uncle Zhang. Shen Baiyu stood where she was, her nails digging into her palm. You should rest too. Their footsteps gradually faded. I was left alone in the living room. I sat on the couch, my hands pressed to my forehead. Mianmian called her cloth bear Daddy because Shen Baiyu had told her that Daddy would always protect her. But her real father had never been there. For years and 3 months, I had been absent for over 1,500 days. My daughter had made a cloth bear her father. That hurt more than Shen Baiyu telling me I had no power and no money. It cut far deeper. Mianmian adjusted faster than I expected. By the 3rd day, she and Uncle Zhang had become close. She chased after him, calling him Grandpa Zhang and begging for stories. On the 5th day, she found a stray cat in the garden. She hugged it and refused to let go. I had the cat checked and let her keep it. On the 7th day, she sat on the carpet in my study, drawing. In the picture was a tall person and a little one, holding hands. Who are they? Mr. and Mianmian. What about mommy? She thought for a moment, then added another person. The three stood together. Mianmian held up the picture, revealing the gap where her front teeth were missing. This is a family. I put the drawing in a drawer. Shen Beiyu was very quiet in the Fang household. Every morning, she rose at 6 to make Mianmian breakfast. She would not touch the clothes the Fang family had prepared for her. She still wore the few old garments washed pale. Fried eggs, porridge, little steamed buns. She changed it up every day, arranging it all neatly. While Mianmian ate, she waited beside her. Only after Mianmian finished did she eat what was left. One time, I passed the dining room and saw her eating Mianmian's leftover half bowl of cold porridge. She spooned it into her mouth, one bite at a time, with little expression on her face. When she noticed me at the door, her spoon stopped abruptly. She hurriedly tried to clear the bowl away. No need to clear it away, she explained softly. Mianmian couldn't finish it. It'd be a shame to throw it out. From now on, make some for yourself too. She opened her mouth, but said nothing in the end. A thin skin had already formed over the cold porridge. Mianmian's little bowl had been washed spotless, but it was as though no dishes had ever been set out for Shen Beiyu. Now she feared wasting even half a bowl of porridge. She was so cautious in this house that it was suffocating. She walked on feather-light steps and kept her voice low. Whenever she encountered the Fang family servants, she would step aside first to let them pass. One time, I passed the kitchen and heard Annie Wang whispering with another maid. I heard she's Mr. Fang's old girlfriend. Look how shabby she is. Who knows where she got the nerve to reach above her station. She used to be the daughter of a high-ranking official. Now she's fallen so low she works as a nanny. What a pity. Annie Wang was fired the next day. Assistant Lin gave only one reason: gossiping. Shen Beiyu did not know. I had no intention of telling her. It wasn't because I'd gone soft. Mianmian's mother should not be gossiped about by servants. That was all. 2 in the morning. Unable to sleep, I went downstairs for water. The old estate was quiet. Only the wall lamps remained lit in the corridor. I had already passed Mianmian's door when I heard the faint sound of a needle passing through fabric. I stepped back. At Mianmian's room, the door was partly open. A nightlight glowed inside. Shen Beiyu sat on the carpet beside the bed, with a needle and thread in her hands. She was sewing Mianmian's cloth bear. The bear's arm had come undone. A clump of stuffing poked out. She sewed very slowly, stitch by stitch. Her stitches were much better than they had been in college, though still far from good. Mianmian turned in her sleep. Her dangling little hand brushed Shen Beiu's head. Shen Beiyu stopped sewing. She tilted her face, pressing her cheek into Mianmian's palm. Tears fell. They landed on the bear's exposed stuffing. She did not wipe them away. She only lowered her head and kept sewing the torn seam closed, little by little. Mommy is sorry. I'm sorry, Mianmian. I stepped back, then gently closed the door. After returning to my room, I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. On the day of the Fang Group's anniversary gala, the city's elite all gathered. The An family was in real estate. They had been Fang Group's partner for years. An Lan was the An family's only son. He was 2 years older than me. His tongue was vicious enough to cut to the bone. I had not planned to bring Shen Beiyu, but Mianmian had a low fever and could not be without her. I had to attend, so I had no choice but to bring them both. There was a lounge beside the ballroom. Mianmian could sleep there, with Shen Beiyu staying beside her. It should have been foolproof, until An Lan approached the head table with a drink. The An family was in real estate. They were Fang Group's partners. 5 years ago, the Shen family fell from power. Shen Beiyu had nowhere left to turn. Zhizhu had sent her to the An family, hoping she would marry An Lan. An Lan was already widowed then. Zhizhu believed that if her daughter married An, the Uns would help save Father Shen. But before more than a dozen friends, An Lan humiliated Shen Beiyu, who was for months pregnant from head to toe. The daughter of a disgraced official thinks she deserves to marry into the An family. Go look in a mirror. See what you're really worth. Shen Beiyu, heavy with child, took a 3-hour bus ride home. Later, she changed her name to Linyi and never contacted anyone from her past again. She was already for months pregnant then. That meant, when she suffered that humiliation at the An home, Mianmian was in her womb. Assistant Lin had uncovered all of it in old records. Halfway through the gala, I was toasting our partners at the head table, and Lan came over with a smile. Mr. Fang, long time no see. I hear there's a new face in your home. Who told you that? You're well informed. Don't worry, I don't mean anything by it. I only wanted to say, that nanny of yours, I met her 5 years ago. Deputy Mayor Shen's daughter, no. The woman who came to my home pregnant, begging to marry me. She was a pitiful sight. Shut up. Don't tell me you still have feelings for her, Mr. Fang. A woman like that. Everyone at the head table looked over, and Lan thought his words would embarrass me. He did not know Assistant Lin had already uncovered it all. I rose to my feet. The chair legs scraped against the marble floor. The sound piercing. And Lan, that parcel and group bought in Chengdong. Which bank approved the loan? His smile vanished. Beicheng Bank, controlled by Fang Group. If I make one phone call tonight, what will happen to your 3 billion yuan loan? By tomorrow, and the construction permits for your 3 developments in Nang. Why don't you go back and check on those? An Lan's hand holding the glass began to shake. Mr. Fang, I was only joking. I'm not laughing. Wine spilled from his glass onto his cuff. Shen Buyu is my wife, no matter who she was before, or what her status may be in the future. If anyone dares say one more word about her, I do not mind showing them the consequences of crossing me in the city. The entire ballroom fell silent, and Lan's glass struck the edge of the table with a sharp clink. His face gradually turned pale. Those waiting to enjoy the spectacle fell quiet too. You're right, Mr. Fang. I spoke out of turn. I'll drink 3 glasses as punishment. Trembling, he drank them all. Then he slunk away. A partner beside me asked quietly, Mr. Fang, Miss Shen is my daughter's mother. No one dared say another word. After the gala, I went to the lounge for Mianmian. She was wrapped in the suit jacket I had sent over, sleeping soundly. Shen Buyu sat beside her, clutching her phone. The screen showed the gala's official live stream. She had seen everything. She saw me stand up to An Lan and heard me call her mine. Her eyes reddened. In the end, she managed only 3 words. Thank you. Her phone still glowed in her palm. The screen was frozen on An Lan bowing his head in apology. 5 years ago, An Lan humiliated her before more than a dozen people. 5 years later, that same man stood before livestream cameras with his head bowed in apology. I bent down and lifted Mianmian. It wasn't for you. She's a Fang child. No one gets to trample on her mother's reputation. I carried Mianmian toward the exit. At the door, Mianmian sleepily called out from my shoulder, Daddy. I stopped. Shen Buyu's breath caught too. Mianmian shifted, burying her face in the crook of my neck. Her burning warmth seeped through my shirt. She still had a low fever. Her breath brushed softly against my neck. I held her a little tighter. I did not stop walking, but my steps slowed. The next day, Assistant Lin brought me a document envelope. I looked at him. This time, he had investigated the truth from 5 years ago. Mr. Fang, are you sure you want to see this? Put it down. After Assistant Lin left, only the envelope and I remained in the office. I opened it. Inside was a stack of call logs and bank statements, along with several witness statements. These documents made no excuses for anyone. They simply laid out what happened 5 years ago, piece by piece. The first was a call log between Shen Buyu and Zhizhu. It was dated the day after Mr. Shen was taken away. Zhizhu said, "Listen to me. Break up with that poor boy immediately. He's an orphan. He can't give you anything. I've already made connections with the An family. Go to them, and you'll become Mrs. An." Shen Buyu gave only one reply. "Mom, I don't want to." "You don't want to? Then, do you think your father can get out? The An family has powerful connections. If you marry into their family, your father's case may still be salvageable. Stay with that Fang boy, and your father can rot in prison." A long silence followed. Zhizhu kept using her father's case to pressure her, until she forced the most hurtful words into her daughter's mouth. Then Zhizhu coached her, word by word. "Is he good enough for you? Look at him. He lives on a few hundred yuan a month. Do you think he can support you? Stop dreaming. Say exactly what I tell you. You have no power and no money. We're through. Just say that. Then leave. Don't look back." Those words I had remembered for 5 years had been taught to her by Zhizhu. I gripped the edge of the papers and opened the second file. Bank statements. On the 7th day after our breakup, Shen Buyu transferred her last 20,000 yuan to Zhizhu. The note read, "Hire a lawyer for dad." That same day, Zhizhu withdrew the money and bought a ticket out of the country. She ran, taking her daughter's last bit of money with her. Every cent Shen Buyu lived on afterward was earned by her own hands. The third file was a witness statement. The witness was the landlord of the place I rented in college. "That girl came by once, about half a month after you moved out. She was visibly pregnant and stood at the door for a long time. I told her you'd moved out and left no address. She asked if I knew where you'd gone. I said I didn't. She stood downstairs in the rain for a long time before leaving. She had come back for me. Pregnant with Mianmian, she returned to that rented apartment looking for me. The landlord only knew that I had moved out, not where I had gone. She had no address and no phone number she could reach. All she could do was wait downstairs with that child in her belly. But by then, the Fang family had already taken me in. The first day grandfather found me, he told me, 'From today on, you are a member of the Fang family. Everything from your past is behind you.' I changed my number and deleted all my social media accounts. The Fang family security team erased every trace of my old life. Shen Buyu had no way to find me. She was carrying my child, while her own mother conned her out of her last 20,000 yuan. Then the An family publicly humiliated her. In the end, she could only change her name to Linyi, rent a room barely over 10 square meters in an urban village, and give birth to Mianmian alone. I put down the documents. My fingers trembled uncontrollably. Not from cold. Those 3 pieces of evidence reconstructed the breakup I'd replayed for 5 years, from beginning to end. I took a sip from my glass. The water had gone cold. It chilled me from my throat to my stomach. Was she wrong? Yes, whether she was forced to say those words or said them willingly, the blade had truly pierced my chest, and she really had hidden our child from me, leaving Mianmian to suffer in South City for over 4 years. But she was not entirely wrong. She came back for me. She gave birth to Mianmian alone. She named the stuffed bear Daddy. She kept my photo on her phone. These past 5 years, she may not have had it any better than I did. At least I had the Fang family, their resources, and the confidence to start over. But she had nothing. I stared at the ceiling. My mind was a hopeless tangle. I'd hated her for 5 years, only to realize I might have been directing that hatred at the wrong person. I should hate Zhizhu and An Lan, and the disaster that tore us apart. But how much did Shen Buyu truly owe me? And how much did I owe her? Before I could sort it out, there was a knock at the door. President Fang. Mianmian wants to say goodnight. I walked out of the study. Mianmian wore new rabbit pajamas, standing in the hall with that repeatedly mended stuffed bear in her arms. The bear's arm had been sewn back on, its stitches crooked, but no stuffing showed anymore. When she saw me, she ran and hugged my leg. Good night, Uncle. Good night, Uncle. Mianmian has a secret to tell you. She curled her finger, asking me to crouch down. The moment I did, her warm little mouth pressed to my ear. Mom says I can't call you Daddy. I have to call you Uncle. But Mianmian thinks Uncle is Daddy. Because when Uncle holds Mianmian, he's as warm as my teddy bear. My nose stung. I reached out and lifted her up. Go to sleep. Will Uncle still be here tomorrow? I will. What about the day after? I'll be here. And the day after that? I'll be here every day. Satisfied, she buried her face in my neck and fell asleep within seconds. I carried her back to her room. When Shen Buyu saw me, she hurried over to take her. I'll take her. No need. I gently laid Mianmian on the bed and tucked her in. Then I tucked the stuffed bear into her arms. When I straightened, Shen Buyu and I stood face to face. The nightlight painted her face a warm gold. When she lowered her eyes, her lashes cast small shadows across her cheeks. I had hated this face for 5 years. Now the truth lay before me, yet I no longer knew how to look at her. Those words back then, Zhizhu taught them to you? Her body went rigid. How do you know? You came back looking for me. Her lips trembled. I found out. You were pregnant. Standing in the rain for a long time outside my old apartment, she backed against the doorframe, and tears suddenly flooded her eyes. She raised a hand to wipe them away. But the more she wiped, the more tears fell. The woman who always kept her head down, who never dared argue back even when the servants gossiped about her, finally broke at that moment. When I came looking for you, you were already gone. Your phone wouldn't connect, and I couldn't send you messages. I thought you hated me. I thought you didn't want me anymore. The Fang family took me away. I changed my phone number. They wouldn't let me contact anyone from my past. She stared at me blankly. You didn't disappear on purpose? No. She clutched the doorframe just to stay standing. Then these past 5 years, I always thought you hated me. I thought once you left, you would never come back. I did hate you. Her tears fell harder. For 5 years, every single day, she bit her lip tightly, afraid to make a sound. But today, I realized the person I hated may never have fully existed at all. She did not understand, and I did not want to explain, because even I had not fully sorted it out. Get some sleep. I turned and left. A faint sob came from behind me. I did not turn around, but my steps slowed again. Not long after, Mianmian was hospitalized. Acute pneumonia. At 3 in the morning, her fever suddenly spiked to 103.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Her whole body was burning. She had begun to ramble deliriously. When Shen Buyu rushed downstairs with her in her arms, I was still in the study. Her face was deathly pale, her voice cracking. Fang Xiu, Mianmian's fever is so high she can barely breathe. I snatched the child into my arms. Mianmian's little face was blazing red. Her eyes were half open, and her lips were cracked and dry. Call an ambulance. I already did. I touched Mianmian's forehead. It was so hot my fingers recoiled. Shen Buyu stood beside me, shaking all over. One moment she touched Mianmian's face. The next she clutched my arm. What will happen to her? She's always been frail. I haven't taken good enough care of her. Shut up. I did not mean to snap at her. My own voice was shaking too. If I let her keep talking, I was afraid I would be the first to fall apart. The ambulance arrived quickly. At the hospital, Mianmian was rushed straight into the emergency room. An intravenous drip, fever medicine, and nebulizer treatments. After more than 2 grueling hours, her temperature finally fell to 101.3 degrees Fahrenheit. The doctor said she had a mild lung infection. She needed to stay for observation and receive intravenous antibiotics for 3 days. Hearing she was out of danger, Shen Buyu's shoulders finally loosened a little. Shen Buyu kept vigil by the bed, refusing to leave for even a second. Even after Mianmian fell asleep, her little hand still gripped Shen Buyu's finger tightly. I sat in the corridor outside, my back against the wall. At 5 in the morning, the hospital was empty. Only the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Assistant Lin brought me a coffee. President Fang, you should get some rest too. No. She sat beside me, and hesitated for a moment. I checked Mianmian's old medical records. She had bronchitis when she was 3. She was treated at a community clinic in South City. Miss Shen did not have enough money, so she put it on credit. She worked 2 jobs to pay it back. I said nothing. When Mianmian was 4, she took a fall. She needed 3 stitches in her forehead. Again, at the community clinic, Miss Shen held her down while they stitched her up. She cried harder than the child did. Enough. Assistant Lin stopped. I stood and walked to the hospital room door. The door was partly open. Mianmian's muffled sleep talking drifted from inside. Mommy, where's Daddy? Mommy says Daddy is the best person in the world. Why doesn't Daddy come see Mianmian? Shen Buyu answered in a low voice. Daddy is here. Daddy has always been here. He just got lost. He didn't abandon Mianmian. Daddy loves Mianmian most of all. Then, will he come get Mianmian? He will. He'll definitely come. Her voice broke on those last few words. A muffled thump came from the room, as if she had buried her face in the blanket. She didn't even dare cry aloud, afraid of waking the child. It was the kind of crying where every sound was swallowed back. For more than 4 years, she had endured it all alone like this, working by day, caring for her child at night. When Mianmian got sick, she put the bills on credit. When Mianmian got hurt, she held her down alone for the stitches. When money ran short, she worked 2 jobs. When her child was in pain, all she could do was hold her still and cry alongside her. She kept my photo on her phone, telling Mianmian over and over that Daddy was the best person in the world. And what was that best person doing? I was signing contracts in high-rise offices, closing deals over drinks, hitting a woman who had carried everything alone. I pushed open the hospital room door. Shen Buyu jerked her head up. Her eyes were swollen nearly shut. The tip of her nose was red as if she'd been punched. Her hand still gripped Mianmian's tiny one. I'm fine. Mianmian's fever has come down a little. She quickly wiped away her tears. I walked over. She instinctively drew back. I didn't stop. I went to the bedside and looked down at Mianmian. Her little face still held an unhealthy flesh. Her lips were cracked, and her breathing made a faint snoring sound. But her brow had finally relaxed. I touched her forehead. It was still warm, but much better than before. Shen Buyu. Yes. I said I'd be here every day. She didn't understand at first. Mianmian asked whether I'd be here tomorrow, and the day after. I said I'd be here every day. I looked at her. Starting today. I mean it. She stood frozen. Her lips and chin trembled uncontrollably. She turned her face away so I couldn't see, but her shoulders shook again and again. I sat on the other side of the bed. I said nothing more. We kept watch over Mianmian from either side. All night, we listened to the fluorescent lights buzz in the corridor. Neither of us mentioned 5 years ago again, nor did we discuss that nanny arrangement. Mianmian's hand rested outside the blanket. Shen Buyu held one side of it. I gently tucked the other side back beneath the covers. At dawn, Mianmian woke up. She looked at me, then at Shen Buyu. Then she broke into a grin. Daddy and Mommy are both here. This time, Shen Buyu didn't correct her. Neither did I. But An Lan soon shattered that fragile piece. More precisely, An Lan and Zhizhu had joined forces. The woman who had vanished for 5 years suddenly returned to the country. An anonymous post exploded online as well. Fang Group Heir keeps a disgraced official's daughter, a secret mistress or rekindled love. It included secretly taken photos of Shen Buyu moving into the Fang residence, along with photos of Mianmian playing in the garden. The angles were invasive. Someone had clearly taken them on purpose. The post dug up every detail of Shen Buyu's past, her father's case, and the seizure of the Shen family estate. Her change of name to Lin Yi, even a photo of her supermarket cashier ID badge, was exposed. The comments were full of abuse. Shen Buyu's former name, the supermarket where she worked, and photos of Mianmian were all displayed for strangers to judge. A disgraced official's daughter clawing her way into a powerful family. How shameless. The Fang heir has been bewitched by a woman. Does old Master Fang know? When she hit rock bottom, she ran back to an old flame. I've seen plenty of women like her. When Assistant Lin handed me her phone, my expression had already darkened. If someone came after me, I could take my time settling the score. But An Lan had put Mianmian in those photos. He had forfeited any right to wait for this to blow over. Did you trace the source? An Lan. He used an overseas account, but the IP address traced back to the An family's South District office. Also, Zhizhu returned 3 days ago. The first person she met after landing was An Lan. One wanted money, the other profit. A perfect pair, really. What do they want? Zhizhu wants Miss Shen to acknowledge her as her mother again, and bring her into the Fang family to enjoy the good life. And Lan wants to ruin your reputation and the Fang groups, to gain the upper hand in next quarter's land auction. The Public Relations Department recommends we make no response, and the attention will fade in a few days. No. I rose to my feet. Set a press conference for tomorrow afternoon. A press conference? The Fang group's quarterly earnings briefing was already scheduled for this week. Move it up to tomorrow. But the public reaction right now. I said move it up. Assistant Lin looked at me and didn't argue further. That night, Shen Buyu came to the study after Mianmian fell asleep. She stood in the doorway, clutching her phone, her knuckles white. Those posts, I saw them. They have nothing to do with you. They have everything to do with me. Her voice trembled. Because of me, the Fang family has been dragged into this. You should what? Leave. She raised her head to look at me. If you dare take Mianmian and leave, I'll turn this entire city upside down to find you. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Shen Buyu, listen carefully. I'll handle this. You don't need to do anything. Just take care of Mianmian. She stood there for a long time, before speaking quietly. I'm sorry. Don't say those 3 words again. She left. The following afternoon, the press hall on the first floor of the Fang Group building was packed. The first 3 rows were crammed with reporters. Every camera was aimed at the stage. Cameras with long and short lenses stood in a row. The lights beat down on my face. So harsh I could barely keep my eyes open. Yet every reporter below stared at me, afraid of missing a single word. They had come for the quarterly earnings report, but they all carried the same question. I stepped onto the stage. I took only 10 minutes to cover the financial results. After reading the final figure, I set down the papers in my hand. Then I looked up. Next, I have a personal matter to address. The entire hall instantly fell silent. The reporter's eyes lit up. Recently, there have been some rumors online about my private life. I don't like responding to such things, but this time is different because these rumors have hurt to people who should never have been hurt. The first is my daughter. A stir ran through the audience. I took out the DNA report and held it up for the cameras. Fang Mianmian is my biological daughter. The DNA test result, 99.99%. Camera flashes went wild. Among the reporters, someone sharply drew a breath. The second is her mother, Shen Buyu. Shen Buyu was my girlfriend in college. My voice was even 5 years ago. Because of a family crisis, we were forced apart. The reason for our separation involved deliberate interference by a third party. The evidence has been handed over to the police. I looked toward the corner on the left. An Lan was sitting there, his face already drained of color. As for the person behind that anonymous post, I pressed the remote. On the large screen behind me, IP tracking records and screenshots of messages appeared. Mr. An Lan of An Real Estate, would you like to come up and explain why your office IP address appears at the source of an anonymous defamatory post? The hall erupted. Slander. The evidence is on the screen. You can call your lawyer. My tone was as calm as if I were reading a financial report. One more reminder. Beicheng Bank has already reassessed in real estate's loans for risk. As for the result, go ask your chief financial officer. And Lan's face went from white to green, then from green to purple. His mouth hung open, but he couldn't say a word. The IP address still glowed on the screen. His accusation of slander, in the face of a full night's tracking records, couldn't even be shouted a second time. Additionally, regarding the woman mentioned in the online post, Ms. Zhizhu, Shen Buyu's biological mother, the screen switched to screenshots of bank transactions. 5 years ago, Zhizhu took all of her daughter's savings, then left the country. She has not returned it to this day. The relevant evidence has been submitted to the prosecutor's office. Murmurs broke out below again. One final thing. I looked directly into the live stream camera. Shen Buyu is my daughter's mother. She is also the woman I, Fang Xiu, have chosen. That is a fact. It requires no one's approval. This press conference is over. I turned and walked off the stage. Shutters clicked in a frenzy behind me. As I entered the backstage corridor, Assistant Lin hurried after me. Mr. Feng, the An family tonight will probably come asking to make peace. I won't see them. And Zhizhu, let the authorities handle her. Also, go on. Miss Shen watched the entire live stream in the car. I stopped walking. How did she react? Assistant Lin hesitated. She cried. From the moment you said she was the woman you'd chosen, she hasn't stopped. I didn't ask anything else. I continued toward the underground garage. The car was in the underground garage. When I opened the rear door, Shen Buyu was curled up in the corner of her seat. Her phone lay by her feet, its screen still on the live stream. Her face was streaked with tears. She made no sound, nor did she wipe them away. They simply fell, one after another. She looked as though she'd been drenched in rain. When she saw me get in, she quickly turned her face away. I sat beside her and shut the door. Only the low hum of the air conditioning remained. What are you crying for? I'm not. Her voice was utterly broken. Why would you do this? You could have left me alone. You could have taken only Mianmian and not wanted me. Why did you have to say that? In front of the entire city? Say what? You said I was the woman you'd chosen. At last, she couldn't hold herself together. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. I don't deserve it. Fang Xiu, I don't deserve this from you. I was the one who said those words back then. I said you had neither power nor money. Shen Buyu. She stopped. Look up. She slowly raised her face. Her eyes were raw from crying, red beyond belief. I reached out and brushed my thumb across her cheek, wiping away a trail of tears. 5 years ago, when you said those words, did you cry? Her lips trembled. She nodded. I cried as soon as I got in the car. I cried all the way to the airport. That day, she held an umbrella while I stood in the rain. I'd always thought the look on her face was contempt, but she had only been afraid to let me see her tears. My hand paused beside her face. Then why didn't you tell me the truth? I was afraid you'd suffer if you stayed with me. She closed her eyes. Tears squeezed through her lashes. You'd already suffered enough. You shouldn't have been burdened by me again. My mother was right. Being with me would bring you nothing good. Your mother was full of shit. Her eyes flew open. I pulled back my hand. Let's go home. Mianmian is waiting. The car drove out of the underground garage. Shen Buyu sat in the corner, her body trembling nonstop. It wasn't fear. She had been wound too tight for too long, and someone had suddenly released the tension. Even she couldn't control it. She pressed her forehead against the window and cried silently the entire way. Outside, neon lights slipped past one by one. 5 years ago, she left in someone else's car. 5 years later, she returned in mine. The wheel had turned. This time, I would never let her leave again. 3 days later, and real estate held an emergency board meeting. An Lan was removed as general manager. Beicheng Bank's loan reassessment was also released. An's 3 billion yuan loan was designated high risk. Its interest rate was raised by 3 percentage points. The An family's stock price fell for 4 straight days. On the 5th day, An Lan's father personally came to the Fang residence. I refused to see him. I only had Uncle Zhang pass along one message. The An family's affairs have nothing to do with me. Take it up with the bank. Things moved even faster with Zhizhu. Once the police got involved, her departure records from 5 years ago and the 20,000 yuan transfer were quickly confirmed. To save himself, An Lan handed over all their communications records. A case was opened against Zhizhu for suspected unlawful appropriation. Before she was taken away, she called the Fang residence. Uncle Zhang answered, "Tell Buyu for me. I'm her mother. She can't abandon me." Uncle Zhang hung up immediately. Afterward, he asked whether he should tell Shen Buyu. I said no, but Shen Buyu saw it on the news anyway. That night, she stood alone on the balcony for a long time. When I went over, she was leaning on the railing, looking down at the garden. Mianmian was chasing that stray cat in the garden. Her laughter carried up to floors. When I was little, she barely cared for me either. Shen Buyu suddenly spoke. Her voice was soft. All she cared about was my father's career in government and keeping up appearances. I was her tool. Whoever could help the family was who she made me marry. She paused. But she is still my mother. So what? I don't know. She turned to me. Tell me, if someone was never properly loved as a child, do they not know how to love someone properly either? I didn't answer, because that question was one I'd asked myself many times. I grew up in an orphanage. Before I was 12, I never wore a single new piece of clothing. I didn't know how to express my feelings, how to act sweet, or how to say, without apology, that I needed someone. Shen Buyu grew up in a family that treated her as a bargaining chip. She learned to command, control, and demand. But no one ever taught her how to love someone as an equal. We were both broken, but Mianmian wasn't. Mianmian grew up missing half the love she deserved. Yet she could laugh and be playful. She called her stuffed bear daddy and ran over to kiss me before bed. She was more whole than either of us. Shen Buyu. I told you, you'd spend a lifetime repaying what you owe me. Her body stiffened, but not as a nanny. She turned toward me, her eyes full of confusion. I took a ring from my pocket. It wasn't some expensive brand. It was a silver ring I bought at a night market in college for 30 yuan. In my sophomore year, I saved a month's living expenses. I'd meant to give it to her on her birthday, but she went out with friends that day and had no time to see me. After that, I kept the ring in my pocket, then put it away in a drawer. Later, I brought it with me to the Fang residence. 5 years passed. The silver ring had tarnished black. It had sat in my drawer for 5 years. I tried to throw it away 3 times. Each time, I threw it in the trash, then took it back out. Shen Buyu stared at the ring. She recognized it. This is. You bought it sophomore year for 30 yuan. Her eyes instantly reddened. You still kept it. I couldn't throw it away. She reached for it, her fingers trembling badly. It took her 3 tries to touch the ring. She cradled the black and silver ring in her palm. Her tears fell onto it, washing away a small patch of tarnish and revealing the silver beneath. Fang Xiu, I've hated you for 5 years. Her shoulders drew in. But this ring, I've kept it for 5 years too. So tell me, do I hate you more, or am I more unable to let you go? She opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. Huge tears streamed down her face. I took her hand and slid the ring onto her ring finger. It was too big. Her fingers had already been slender 5 years ago. Now, They were even thinner. The ring hung loose on her finger, impossible to keep in place. We'll get a new one later. No. She took the ring off her finger and clenched it tightly in her hand. This one is enough. I looked at her. Her tears had washed her face clean, revealing who she truly was beneath. No longer the haughty daughter of a high-ranking official, nor the cautious, down-and-out nanny. Just an ordinary 28-year-old woman. She had raised a child alone, with every sharp edge worn away, after enduring every hardship. And now she stood here, crying like a fool over a 30-yuan ring. I reached out and pulled her into my arms. The moment she pressed herself against me, the hole in my chest, empty for 5 years, began to fill. Little by little, not by the ring, not by money, not even by the Fang family's power. It was the faint scent of laundry detergent in her hair. It was her weight against my chest. It was the hand clutching the back of my shirt. Fang Xiu. I'm sorry. Say those 3 words again, and I'll throw you out. She laughed through her tears, then started crying again halfway through. She buried her face in my chest and spoke in a muffled voice. Then I won't say it. I'll spend my life showing you instead. Downstairs, Mianmian ran into the garden holding the cat. She looked up at the balcony and shouted, "Daddy, Mommy, what are you doing?" Mianmian's cat caught a butterfly. Shen stepped out of my arms and lowered her head to wipe her tears. No matter how long she wiped, she couldn't dry them. I looked downstairs. Mianmian stood in the middle of the garden. Moonlight shone over her tiny frame. Her laughter rang so clear it seemed to shatter the night. Let's go down. Okay. Shen turned to leave, but I caught her wrist. She looked back. I lowered my head and rested my forehead against hers. Don't ever do that again. Do what? Making me wait 5 years. Don't ever do that again. She smiled. Not that careful, eager to please smile, but one that truly shone from her eyes. In 5 years, it was the first time I had seen her smile like that. I let go of her wrist. Come on. Mianmian's waiting. She went downstairs and ran into the garden, scooping Mianmian into her arms. Mianmian wrapped her arms around her neck, her little legs swinging. The cats circled around their feet. Moonlight blanketed the ground. I stood on the balcony, watching the moonlight illuminate them. I slipped a hand into my pocket. It was empty. The ring I'd kept for 5 years was finally gone. It had gone where it belonged. Soon, Mianmian's voice rose from below. Mommy, tell Daddy to come down too. Shen looked up at the balcony. Moonlight shone from behind her, lighting her face. The corners of her lips curved upward, with unwiped tears still clinging to the corners of her eyes. Fang Xiu, your daughter is calling you. I couldn't stop the corners of